Season 2 of Maple's Host of Pro, where we talk with top talents about everything from marketing to business and so much more. Our guest today is Brendan Hufford. After spending the first decade of his professional career as a high school teacher and assistant principal, Brendan led the SEO team at two agencies, later leading growth marketing efforts at Active Campaign. In 2021, he founded Growth Sprints, where he works with SaaS companies, helping them scale from 10 million to 100 million ARR. So, hi, Brandon. Welcome to Host a Pro. I'm very happy to have you. We're here to talk about, we talk about marketing and business and everything else. And we talk to marketers, and we talk to like small business owners, entrepreneurs, um, people who are in the day to day. What they aim to do is grow. And that's why I have you here, because this is what you're talking about, wherever you can, if it's LinkedIn, if it's other places. uh, I know you haven't, I mean, in your intro I said that the first decade of your professional career is a school teacher. What brought the shift?
So I think a couple things. First of all, the fact that we let 18-year-olds decide what they want to do with the rest of their lives and then take on a ton of debt and make a huge life decision. I'm almost 40. So that means when I was like choosing my major in college, I sat down with like a course catalog, like a big phone book full of like all the courses they were offering. And I'm like, well, teaching sounds great. And it was not an informed or guided decision. But I tried to climb that ladder. I taught for 5 or 6 years. I got my master's degree in administration. I became an assistant principal, the lowest paid assistant principal in my state. I know because I looked it up. It was bad. Um, all for the privilege of Monday morning panic attacks, an extra 25 pounds around my midsection, a really unhealthy relationship with alcohol, and just feeling like I was totally drowning. We had just had, similar to we had just had my first son. So he was born in May. We had summer off, and I came back to school, and my boss, I was just a department chair in my school, and my boss, the assistant principal at the time, was like, make sure you have your lesson plans in, your curriculum maps, and today's my last day. And they were like, what are we going to do? We don't have an assistant principal. And I'm like, I got it. And I push, right? I'm a hyper achiever through and through. So I climbed that ladder as an assistant principal for 2 years. And I was like, this is a living nightmare and it's awful. And I don't want to do it. And I remember reading a story about Albert Einstein, how he worked at a patent office because it was easy. And he would get his work done within like an hour or two a day. And then he'd have the rest of the day to do whatever he wanted. And I was like, all right. So I strategically left leadership, went back into the classroom at a different school. And that gave me, I did that for 2 more years. That gave me enough escape velocity to go full-time working at an agency. Because I came up in online marketing, like a lot of courses about courses and webinars about how to run webinars, like that sort of like weird space. So I was taught you hate your job, right? And I'm like, yes, I hate my job. It's like, cool, quit your job, freedom lifestyle, to make $10,000 a month off of ebooks, like that type of, Amazon drop shipping or something, whatever it is, FBA.
Take my money.
Yeah, like it was just scam after scam. And I was just like, but I had realized, like looking back and through a lot of therapy, that like that had really taught me to like hate my life as a motivator. And that's a really toxic fuel. And then one day I was literally just sitting in my car out during my 20-minute lunch I got at the high school I worked at. And I'm talking to my friend, and he was like, why don't you just go work somewhere else and do marketing? You don't have to quit and do your own thing. You don't have to, because that was scary, right? Like at that point, we had just had our second kid. I'm like, I can't take care of these humans on, my side hustle income. So I went and worked at an agency. I became the SEO director at a design agency. I got poached to another agency, helped that agency go from 10 to 25 million a year, and then went in-house at a company called Active Campaign. But that journey doesn't happen without me just relentlessly like making stuff on the side. Even before I ever thought about quitting my job or any of that, I was just building things. I was building websites. I was building online communities. Before learning email marketing, I have what I call like a deep generalist skill set. Like I can, from literally like inception and premise all the way through audio engineering, I can handle a podcast. I can do the same thing with YouTube. I can do the same thing for SEO and content strategy. I can write your email. Like, there's not a lot in marketing I can't, maybe not Google AdWords, right? But like, there's not a lot I can't do in digital marketing. And that just comes from me just making a lot of stuff. So I looked at a couple things. When I went in-house at the first agency, we worked with everybody, right? It was a web design agency. So we're making websites for the biggest zoo in Chicago, but also the American Orthopedic Association, but also Premier Window Washing. Like, it was all over the place, which means I was getting a wonderful, just vast education in all these different types of businesses. And then when I went to the second agency, we were a B2B marketing agency. And, I really pushed while I was there to reposition the agency. I'm like, if you look at our homepage, we have 50 logos and 49 of them are software companies. Why don't we just say we're for software companies? That positioning matters, right? They're just guessing right now that we can help them. Let's say it. We repositioned. The repositioning meant we redid our offer because we were just doing SEO and PPC. And I'm like, there are other things we can help these companies with, whether it's RevOps, or everybody at the time was using Drift. Like, we can learn Drift and do that, all these different things. So it was really like positioning and offer design. I got a really deep understanding of SaaS while I was there. And then going in-house at ActiveCampaign, which is a software company, that also helped bolster out, like, what is it like to actually sit in that seat for a couple of years as an in-house marketer. And then when I started looking at starting my own thing and like really going all in on it, a big piece of it was I actually have this spreadsheet that where I took all my clients I'd ever worked with, everybody I'd ever consulted with, like 50 different people, not including like the agency clients, just like personal ones. I put them in buckets, and then I looked at really like 3 different things. Number one, who do I enjoy working with most? Like, who do I hate? Okay, cool. I'm not going to focus on them. Can I get outsized impact for them? And can they afford me? Right? Like, can I get outsized impact for the taco truck down the street that I love? Absolutely. I could crush it for them. Can they afford me? Absolutely not. Like, no way. There is no amount of impact I could drive for them where they could pay me, like $10,000 a month or something like that. So those 3 things, they're like, do I like them? Can I get them huge results? And can they afford to like pay along the lines of those results? Were really a big driver. And also, like, to be transparent with you, I really like software. Like, I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's really interesting. And there's some people that get jazzed about lighting. And they're like, yeah, I love lighting and retrofitting lights with LEDs and stuff. And like, that's what is cool to them. Software is just cool to me. I think people can tell, like, people that follow me on LinkedIn are like, wow, he really likes this. And I don't just like a little bit of it. Like, I love the customer service side and customer success and, the whole like sales I got really excited and interested in the sales process a couple of years ago, and like predictable revenue and challenger sales and all this different stuff. I just really like how like venture, I'm super interested in. I really wanted to understand the whole landscape. And that really, I think, like I said, I think it comes across, but it was those big 3 things. And then also just, I like it.
I think that's the best reason to kind of focus on something, just liking it. I mean, I like people, so here I am hosting the Host of Pro.
When you think about like marketers, the best way, I've told this to a lot of like CMOs recently, the best way to retain really amazing marketers is 2 things. One, make sure that they have impact. Marketers want to have impact, and that they too like what they're doing. If you're having huge impact but you hate the work, you're not going to stay there that long. Or if you love the work but it's not doing that much, you're not going to stay there that long. So like, I think you and I are both on the same.
Yeah, totally. I've been, preparing for this interview. I've kind of went through your LinkedIn page because that's my favorite thing to do. And you're talking about a lot of stuff. I mean, you're asking questions. I mean, my favorite post of yours was one of your recent ones about the $1,000 microphone and a $1 question, which kind of got me thinking. I gotta prepare for something like big. But I mean, the post I wanted to talk to you about is the IKEA strategy, because I didn't even link clicked on the read more. I just saw the title, like the beginning of the post, and I saw the IKEA strategy, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but it makes perfect sense that it should work because that's IKEA. So let's talk a little bit about that. What's IKEA strategy? How do you use it? How do you implement it?
So a big the way like I first of all like I'm big on like trying to coin things and like it's just it's better than being like, oh, you should do this and then like listing a generic best practice, right? Like it's so I try to name things. And the IKEA strategy came out of me just spending a lot of time at IKEA and loving IKEA and being like, this is really cool. What are they doing different? And I kind of fell in love. I saw a bunch of my clients were using a product called Navatic, Navattic. And it's just an interactive public demo that's on your website. You can build it as a marketer, it's no code. In fact, at first I saw other people like also just building it without it. They just had like a, you could literally just click around on something. Canva kind of did things like this a little bit, but they were really more of like a PLG. You can actually just start using the tool. I just liked that, like, especially for things that didn't have a product led growth, they didn't have a free trial or a freemium kind of motion. You could get to the aha moment. And IKEA does the same thing. If you could, I mean, the actual buying experience for part of IKEA's, for at least the IKEAs I've been to, is terrible. You're walking into a warehouse and they're like, it's, Bay 27 in aisle I. And you walk down there and you grab your box and it has a little picture on the top of what the thing is. And you're like, who would ever shop that? It's awful. It's a terrible shopping experience. But because they front load it with 47 bedrooms and 27 different offices, fully set up, fully decorated with all their stuff, and you're like, oh, and you just go in and you sit in the chair and you're like, I could be in this room. This is cool. And then you walk around and you take little pictures of all the different things in the room, and then you go downstairs and you buy them. And again, like, the buying part sucks, but that experiential part of like, get me to the aha moment, get me feeling what I would feel before I actually make even the slightest purchase decision. That really blew me away. And I was like, all right, this is a thing for software as well. I think it could be for a lot of different experiences online, but just like how if you remember, like, I'm probably just old, but like, I felt like for a long time, people were like, nobody will ever buy clothes online. You want to try them on, don't you? Like, you have to try them on. You would never just buy a shirt online. And now, like, I buy all my clothes online. Like, I don't, like, I just think, like, as long as you can have enough of a experience ahead of time, you're like, all right, cool. So the IKEA strategy was really born out of like seeing this and then seeing people actually using it. And then when I saw the results that people were driving, like, it's not a tiny thing. It's not like a 3% improvement in conversion rate. It's like 500% improvements when people are actually experiencing the tool or the service. Even like, you could use the IKEA strategy for your service. There's a really cool two-person agency called Fletch. They do product marketing. They really just do like homepage messaging, which is a really cool, like, tight offering. But they have a really cool walkthrough on their homepage of like, here's what it's like working with us. And you kind of like go through some deliverables and you look at like that, like, because I've experienced that ahead of time, by the time I'm like, yes, I'd like to talk, I'm 90% sold. And I think that's where the magic is.
Is it because I'm thinking, a different world, but gaming, like stuff from the app world, it's kind of like having a freemium like time, or because I don't think a demo, I mean, because it's not, you're not talking about a demo, it's not a demo that you're talking about a real experience for a client, a prospect client. It can be a company, it can be B2B, doesn't really matter. But it's kind of like implementing that seed of saying, I can see how this works, I can see myself in it, okay, I need to try it. And take my money because I want it.
For so long, you needed dev resources.
How do you do that though? But is it a demo thing? I mean, how would you recommend a business to use that
So
strategy?
there's a lot of softwares that can do this now. I mean, you could build it yourself. I've had people be like, "Oh, we built it for free. It only took our devs 3 weeks," and I'm like, "That's not free. You paid them." But what I like about it is two things. Number one, I've seen this split tested against video demos and all this different, like all the different other ways people visualize their product. And I think the magic is number one, a marketer builds it by themselves. You don't need to wait for anybody. You don't need help from anybody. And also, when you make product changes, you don't have to rebuild the whole thing. If you have a video, you have to re-record the whole thing. That sucks. If you have an actual um, the other problematic piece is people will build like sandboxes for their software, and they're like, just get in, and all my audience wants to do is click around a little bit. It, they do, but they don't, right? Like if it's just like buying like
They especially don't want to waste
they don't
their
want to waste their
time.
time. And I've been in so many sandboxes where I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? What does that mean? Like, I want some guidance. I want, like, can you imagine, like, to use a Star Wars analogy, because I'm a huge nerd, like, can you imagine if Luke Skywalker, like, one day Obi-Wan just, like, left the lightsaber out in front of his house and was like, figure it out? Like, with Obi-Wan standing there, Luke still almost cuts his own head off. Like, you need a guide. You need an Obi-Wan Kenobi. You need a Yoda. Like, this is just classic, like, hero's journey, Joseph Campbell storytelling. Like, the hero needs a guide. It is a required piece. So let's guide them. Let's take them through. And yes, they can click around. Give them choose your own adventure options, but like take them through the thing in the way that'll help them the most. Right?
Sure. Um, what's the top struggle you find with companies like lately?
So generally, it's breaking out of what my friend Jay Akunzo calls the commodity cage, where they're just doing what I call checkbox marketing. We're going to write our weekly blog post and we do our monthly webinar and our weekly podcast, and they check the box over and over. And this is back to what I said about like you can't retain talent with checkbox marketing. If you have an incredibly talented and creative marketer and all you're doing is having them every single week churn out the same commodity garbage, they're not going to stay very long and the work isn't going to resonate. It might do a thing, like it might seem like it's working, but you don't love it. Nobody really loves it. You're nobody's favorite. And getting out of that has been one of the biggest things, like getting out of that commodity copycat, like chat GPT like type of content. It's the worst, right? And I posted on LinkedIn today. I had 3 comments that were almost exactly the same from 3 different people. And I'm like, if you all don't stop using Chat GPT to outsource your, like, why are you using Chat GPT to write your comments for you? Stop it. Like, just be regular.
People are doing that?
It's
People are actually doing that?
rampant. Yes. Even like really popular people where like, if you go, because here's the problem, we can all see each other's comments on LinkedIn. Like you go to their profile and you click comments, I can see your last 20 comments you've left. And if every single one is like awesome take name and then it re-summarizes the post and it always uses like similar ChatGPT also uses like really similar phrases over and over and over again, and you can kind of start picking up on it. It also just sounds like a really confident 14-year-old. It's kind of silly. Anyways, like breaking out of that, like feeling like scale is not the answer, right? We can't just yeet 10,000 LinkedIn comments into the sun and hope it's going to do something. So breaking out of that has been like one of the biggest struggles because for so long, like checkbox marketing was the thing. People are following that like 2012 HubSpot playbook where it's just like, let's blog more than anybody else. Let's post more than anybody else. That like 1,000 blog posts, how about 10,000 blog posts? Like they're just still playing that volume game. And the problem is there is so much volume online that there's no way it can resonate. And you have to do something that I've started calling like content IP, which is owning intellectual property around the problems your customers have. We, especially in software, love to give fun, fancy names to our solutions, to the answer, right? Like when I was in-house at Active Campaign, we were email marketing, but most people didn't even know we were email marketing. They certainly didn't know that we had enterprise level marketing automations for $9 a month, which was the most amazing part of that tool. And instead, our the powers that be decided we were going to rebrand as customer experience automation. What? Like, what is that? Nobody knew. And it fell flat. We put all this work into it, and people are like, cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when you give yourself your own nickname. Like, if I walked in the room and I'm like, hey, you guys, my name's Brendan, but you can call me T-Bone. Everybody's going to be like, did you just nickname your, like, I'm not calling you T-Bone, Brendan. Like, what are you doing? It's weird. So let's not give ourselves our own nicknames. Let's not create IP around the solution. Like, let's create things around like the problems our customers have. Jay does this really well. I just gave you a piece of his IP, that commodity cage, right? I gave you a piece of my IP, that checkbox marketing. Let's name the problems that are like a lot of us that spend a lot of time on LinkedIn have heard about dark social, have heard about the attribution mirage. Like this is IP around problems, not solutions. When you can give your customers words for a problem they have felt for years, all of a sudden, and I'm not talking about like a sentence or like, just good old school copywriting is like, yeah, like use your customers' words back to them and it'll resonate. And that works. And we should all do it. But sometimes being like, here, can I give you one more example? I was reading this book from like an ultra marathon runner, and I would consider myself like a former athlete, right? I was highly athletic in college and in my early 20s. And as somebody who kind of like self-recognizes as a former athlete, there's this line in this book from this ultra marathon runner where he just casually just goes, I remember when my body used to feel like a weapon. And I had never articulated it that way, but that short phrase, all of a sudden I was like, whatever you sell, I will buy, because you know exactly how I feel. Like my body did used to feel like a weapon, because I don't need to describe what, like all of a sudden you can visualize like what type of body that is and what that would feel like internally. And it carries so much. So owning that IP around the problems or the struggles or the past selves or the transformation that we're looking for, like that's really powerful. And that's how you break out of what I see most software companies making the mistake of, which is just making more commodity content.
How easy it is to help scale companies like that are struggling, or I mean, especially now 2024, it's the recession. Everyone's talking about the recession. Everyone talking about having no money, even though it feels like everyone has so much money they don't know where to spend it. I mean, that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. um how do you do that? I mean, how easy is it? Is it really easy? Is it like a solution that you're saying, let's work together for 3-4 months as a project, I can get you there? Or is this something that businesses need to understand? Like if it's founders, CEOs, whatever, decision makers, marketers, they need to kind of say, all right, this is this is a game changer. Let's invest for 1, 2, 3 years, pivot around whatever we do, um, and start scaling. Because it's kind of like a magic pill. You're saying, well, I help people scale from 10 million to 100 million. Let's It sounds really good. Like, give me the pill that I can lose 20 pounds and I'll take it right now. So, but it's too good to be true. How long does it take? What's the like, what's the push? Where's the struggle?
So I think two things. Number one, my positioning of I help companies scale from 10 to 100 million in revenue is proxy for, can you do the work? Can we get this done? Because if you're a tiny company and you're calling me and you're like, hey, I'm a co-founder and I have a technical co-founder and I'm going to write all the blogs, we're too early. Like you should be doing a million other things right now that is not what I help with, right? right? And I've had a lot of like well-meaning, like, look, I love getting paid. I love money. It's great, right? It helps me. I went from
Sure.
a broke teacher to now living a life that I did not think was possible previously. But at the end of the day, if I have for a full, let's say all the clients I work with in 2024, they all pay me and then take my strategy and all the work I do for them and they put it on the shelf and they never do anything with it. That's bad for my business because
Of
I
course.
need people that get results. So I have to choose my clients really carefully and make sure I'm only working with people. Now, I also put that top. I don't help you scale from 100 million to a billion. That's a nightmare for me. That is corporate bureaucracy, and I need to do 27 different security interviews, and they need to send me a laptop from them to use. Like, oh God, no, thank you. I've been through that twice, and that's why like I don't do that ever. The money is great, but you can't. For it's so weird. It's like this bell curve. Like really early stage, it's hard to get stuff done, and really late stage, it's hard to get stuff done because you got to have 40 people on a meeting to be like, can we write this blog next month? It's wild. Um, so is it hard? Yeah, but I think you have to choose your hard and figure out like where you like to be. And I think companies are starting to do that too. The idea that we go from a $1 million company to the whatever it was, like triple double double or whatever VC thing where you have to just exponentially scale. The problem is on the long run, there's a really brilliant article called the elephant curve, which explains that most of them, if you look at the curve of the company, it actually looks like an elephant's trunk, and then it actually rounds out on their back, where it's a really steep climb and it peaks, and then it actually goes down a little bit over time. It levels out a little bit lower. That elephant curve is what every big, like Meta, Google, everybody has experienced. You just have to figure out what kind of company you want to run and how big you want to grow and what problems you want to solve. I don't think every company should be $1 billion company. I don't think it's the way that this all should work, and I think we're kind of all seeing that. So to answer your question a little more concretely, of like how hard is it? Like first, I'm not under any auspices that like I personally am the growth lever that will take you from
Oh, no,
there.
no,
You know,
no.
like
It's not specifically you. I mean, I'm talking generally, obviously. No, no, no. It's not specifically about you. And to make it clear, I'm asking if I have a business owner listen to me right now, talking to you right now, and they're thinking, can I really have this like major growth? I mean, I think even companies that like even SaaS companies that say, I have a really good solution, they sometimes don't really believe that they can make so much money. They don't know if it's potentially there. Um, there's this there's a block there. So that's what I'm asking. Is it really possible and how long will it take? Obviously it depends on your team, your talent and everything. I'm talking once you're taking a strategy that is outside the box a little bit, not checking all the check boxes and doing actual work.
of it depends on more than like just marketing, right? So like it's not just like the marketing side of it. It's how long is this going to take under the current environment? Because back like people look at monday.com and they're like, wow, look at their growth. They went from this to this, and you're like, they are not even remotely profitable and they took on so much debt to get there. Is that what you want to build? Are you just praying you can pass the debt on to an IPO and like make everybody like make the general public pay for it? Like maybe, but like a lot of other people are like, I would be really happy having a business that does 8 million a year in revenue but is 50% profit, right? Like that would be incredible. Like I would much rather have 4 million in the bank, whatever taxes and stuff, but like I'd rather make a couple $1 million a year than make a couple million a year running this unicorn and like losing my health, losing my relationships with my children, and all of those sorts of things. Is it possible to grow in the current environment? Absolutely. Like people still need solutions to things. They still need help with stuff. Whether you run a grocery store, or you're a local brick and mortar business, or you are a software company, like, or you're a service business like me, it is still absolutely possible to see big growth. I think at the end of the day, that growth hinges on how close you are to your customers. I have seen product teams, sales teams, and marketing teams at different companies all have absolute at separate times, but like have zero idea what their customers want. Nobody has talked to customers in years. And I'm just like, what? How are you deciding the product features? How are you like? How are we like? What is our decision making framework for like what we offer, how we grow the business, all of that sort of stuff? Um, and I think that's like the crux of it is, do we have a motion? Like if you really want to see growth, you have to have a motion of staying really close to your customers. That looks very different as you scale, but you can't let go of that.
Yeah, sounds just about right. Um, I have a trick question for you. What's the one good question I didn't ask you?
Um, what book I'm reading right now? I feel like I get asked that a lot of like questions about books. We didn't talk about books today. I don't know.
Really? I mean, no, I mean, I'll tell you why. Because I think, okay, usually when I finish these interviews, I'm like, do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Um, with you, I feel I can ask, what's the one question I didn't ask? I mean, what's the one answer that you want to kind of give as the thing to remember wrapping this up?
Yeah. I think one of the core things is what I just like let's combine everything, right? All of my success in my career has been via relationships. And all of those relationships have allowed me to both understand the problems that I solve, create positioning in an offer that resonates and actually solves real life problems for those people and drives real life outcomes. Um, and then outside of then the next piece is it allows me to create those like that marketing that continues to fuel the engine where I don't have to stress where my next lead is going to come from, my next, deal or whatever else. I work in sprints. I don't sell retainers. I push back on that so hard. SEO people love their retainers, and if you saw the complete lack of work that happens in months 2 through forever whenever you fire them, you'd be disgusted. But I've been in those machines, and I'm like, they're gyms. They make their money off of people not coming into the gym. Like that's how most gyms make their money, of just zombie payments. Same thing with agencies. Like we're gonna do all the work up front, and then we just coast on it forever. And I didn't want to be that way. I wanted my clients to still love me afterwards. Whenever we ended our engagement, I wanted them to still be my best friends. And maybe I wasn't like hugged enough when I was a little kid, but like I really need people's approval. So I've built my whole business that way, and working in sprints, like even that methodology, I noticed like, hey, this is a huge gap. I can enter the market immediately, and I have really strong positioning against everybody else that says they do what I do. All of that has come via relationships and staying really close to the people that I work with, both on an individual level, but also as like on a persona level, like figuring out ways to continue getting information from them, to continue serving them.
That's amazing. Brendan, thank you so much for your time today. I had a really great time talking to you. Hopefully I'll get to talk to you again.
This was great. Thank you for having me on.